The mission of Goshen Community Schools is to inspire innovation, empowering potential, enriching our world. And our vision, Goshen Community Schools, Indiana's premier global school district of choice. Moving on to item 1.4, approval of tonight's agenda. Do we have any additions or revisions to the agenda?
We do have one revision this evening on the personnel roster. The resignation for Lisa Garman should be May 16th, 2022, not May 15th.
Right. With that revision, the agenda is approved as revised. And item 1.5, approval of the minutes from our May 9th, 2022 regular school board meeting and May 17th, 2022 executive session. Do we have any revisions to those minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. We'll move on to item 2, which is recognition and student staff recognition.
Thank you. We first have 5 girls we'd like to recognize for passing the Indiana State Department of Health Certified Nursing Assistant exam, and they became a CNA. So I don't know if they're all here, but I'm going to call the names and see if they come up. Evelyn Perez, Jennifer Perez, Stephanie Ponce, Samantha Soto, Sarah Stansberry. So they took an exam and passed, and now they're, you can see it here, they're going to take a picture with you.
Congratulations.
Is that in conjunction with Ivy Tech or?
Was it through Ivy Tech? We'll have them.
Okay,
submit
okay.
it. Yeah.
I'm just
Yes,
curious.
it is.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the CNA program.
It took a lot of work. It made me get out of my comfort zone. For sure. Yeah. Very nerve-wracking.
You'll need that being a CNA though.
Oh
It's
yeah.
a tough job.
It opened my mind. It taught me how to like talk to others more as well.
And could you introduce anybody who came with you tonight?
My mom is in the blue shirt. It's her birthday. And then my dad is behind her, and also the blue shirt. And then my stepdad is also in another blue shirt.
Coordinated tonight.
Oh, and my grandma is back there in the partly blue shirt. I came with my dad in the hat, and with my cousin on the side of him, my aunt in the white shirt, my uncle in the burgundy shirt, and then my brother and my cousin.
Great.
So parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, we appreciate your support. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
So we have one student who received a gold key in the Regional Scholastic Art Awards and a gold medal at the national level, and that was Amaya Castillo. Is she here? And then I don't think Betsy Poland's here either, right? She was the teacher that coached Maya to that national recognition. So let's give them a round of applause.
Add to that one, since I started my career as an art teacher, getting the gold key in scholastics is top of the top. So, big honor.
Is Thomas Castillo here? All right, Thomas, come on up. Thomas is being recognized for setting the Goshen High School baseball record for stolen bases as a junior. A record that has been for 40 years. And he surpassed it. So, Thomas, congratulations.
That's only 2 full seasons?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Still have him for one more year.
Whose record?
Imagine what he's doing there.
Whose record did he break? Never? Yeah. All right.
It was a long time ago.
I think it's just
Ron Llewellyn.
So why don't you introduce your coaches and then anybody else who's been with you tonight?
So assistant coach, Joe Pickey, and Coach Norris, is back with the baby with his wife. That's all.
Okay. Coaches, thank you. You run track also.
No.
So we are going to recognize some tech students and their teacher today. So I would like to call Jen Yoder up first. Jen was selected as the Indiana Technology Student Association, the TSA Advisor of the Year. Along with that, Goshen High School's TSA, they earned first place in the Indiana State Competition for Chapter Special Sessions participation. They won first place in the Indiana TSA State Competition for a chapter and canned food drive. And they earned second place in the Indiana State Competition for overall chapter champion. All of those. Yeah, why don't you, we want to recognize, because she's going to personalize this a little bit for students. We don't know if they're all here, but we do want to recognize them. You, I want you to talk about, go through about all of them.
So Technology Student Association, there's the high school chapter and the middle school chapter. So Goshen right now just has a high school chapter. My goal is next year, middle school will be competing as well. But they've done really well at the state competition. First one I'm going to talk about is Karen Velasquez Valdez. Here. She earned first place in the competition for essays on technology. So she had to write, it was a 1,500 word essay just about technology. So very cool. Caden Hodge, he won first place for our CAD 2D architectural design. So he was given a prompt and had to put an entire architectural design in architectural software. So he got first place in the state for that, which was very cool. Alberto Diaz Macias earned second place for board game design, and there was actually a team of them with his sister Lupe Diaz Macias and Tyra Gachovi. So they had to create a board game that had to do with engineering. So, and they had to present it and have the actual physical board game, and everything was virtual this year. So through Zoom, they played the game in front of the judges and explained how that worked. In Dragster, we had Caleb Griffin Burns. He placed fifth for his Dragster design, the CO2 cars that maybe you did when you were in school. Manuel Fuentes, he did the three-dimensional part of architectural design and placed first in that. Again, he was given a prompt and I gave him a bunch of foam board and hot glue and he created the whole design based on their specs. Our technology bowl, that's set up kind of like Jeopardy / Family Feud style, which is always interesting when that's through Zoom also. But we earned second place for the tech bowl, which I am especially proud of because the team that beat us is actually a charter school where all of the students, I think about 90% of the students are actually in China, and it's an online charter school. I mean, they were up against the top of the state. And we got second place for that. And our team for that was Manith Kamalakan, Javier Reyes, and Lupe Diaz Macias. And then they were given an on-demand video prompt. They had 18 hours to come up with a commercial for TSA, and there were specific prompts that they had to have in that. We earned second place for that. And our team for that was Manith Kamalakan, Jesus Rodriguez Ortiz, and Harrison Savchuk, which Harrison's not here, but his parents are behind me, so they get
He's on vacation in the
20 minutes ago, we went past the first culvert in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And that was important because Harrison was a former employee.
Yeah, as you can probably imagine students involved in this, they're also involved in a lot of things. So I heard from a lot of them saying, I've already left on a missions trip, or I'm already in a travel sports league. So otherwise, I know they would be here. I'm really proud of all these students. Most schools do TSA as part of class curriculum. At Goshen, we do it as something that it's during SRT before and after school. So for the students to place as high as they did in the state, and it's all on their own time, I think that says quite a bit for the caliber of students we have in the engineering program at the high school.
We need to get a picture of Jen.
Change the direction. This is like
Yes.
No, you can go back up and try to get out of the picture.
Thank
So if you came here for student staff recognition, now is your chance to act, unless you'd like to stay for the rest of the week.
So as people are exiting out, the format of our agenda has changed slightly. In preparation for a new law that was passed, public comment, starting in July, technically needs to be before we take any action items, but we are starting that this month. So next on the agenda is our public comment section. So this is the opportunity for people, if they signed in, to speak on any agenda or non-agenda items. And so with that, we will start. Terry Hartman.
Good evening. As those of you on the school board know, I filed an official complaint with Indiana's public access counselor over the meeting of a secret book review committee that reviews books that have been red flagged by the community. As you also probably know, on June 8th, the Indiana Public Access Counselor agreed with me that Goshen Community Schools is in violation of Indiana's open door law should it continue to hold secret book review meetings without public notification. Our community deserves transparency. After my friend Rob Rader shared the book reviews from the committee, I've been trying to find out if there are any more really bad books in our GCS school libraries. I was disappointed to find out, yes, there are. My search found books of pornographic material, including bestiality, minors involved in prostitution, and the mocking of Christians. What happened? The government took God out of our schools, and now they've embraced depraved materials. A quote from your school board policy code 3130 says, quote, "No challenged material may be removed from the curriculum or from a collection of resource materials except by action of the board," end quote. Notice the policy says board. It does not say book review committee. A book review committee is powerless to do anything. The blame for these materials in the library is yours, board. Not a committee, not the American Library Association, but yours. The book review committee and Dr. Hope embraces the philosophy that reading bad material is justified if the book has a good ending. I disagree. Is there not some form of decency that people can agree? I believe most of you on the board claim to be Christians. Would Christ allow these vile materials for our boys and girls to read? Why do you have a burdensome policy to remove evil books from our schools? You can change the policy and have books reviewed before they're admitted into our school libraries. Whatever critics may say, there are ways to do this. I'm going to close by giving each of the school board members that are here book excerpts from books that are in our Goshen School Library, Goshen High School Library. And I'm asking that you read each of these excerpts and remove these books without involving any forms, any policies, any book review committees. I'm asking that you remove these books and that you change your policy. I believe that you are decent people And we can agree on some things that are just for the betterment of our boys and girls and in the matter of what's good and decent. So I'll close with passing out one to each of you. Thank you.
We have a copy for, just not here, thank you.
Thank you very much. Rob Rader.
Good early evening, Rob Rader, 908 South 10th Street, Goshen. Well, I guess I got a little infamous airtime last meeting when we discussed these little flyers. And we might disagree on what was posted, but I wanted to bring up the fact that I'm disappointed that there wasn't more collaboration. Dr. Hope suggested maybe if I have any questions that I call and get clarification. Well, frankly, I didn't have any clarifications, and at every school board meeting, I give my address, and I've given that several times, so you all know where I live. A little story about Rob Rader. I was handing out flyers one time, and I went to one of our local council members and knocked on the door, and they said, "Get off my porch." I was a little stunned. Years later, they come to my porch. We invite them in. My wife made cookies. That's how you'd be treated if you came to my house. But nonetheless, I include my phone number and how many countless interactions on emails. You're always welcome to call me, and I wanted to emphasize that I'm looking for collaboration. Now, I know the state of secondary education these days is left of center, and so it's no surprise that some of the policies or thoughts go against what I say. But driving in the left lane is one thing, but with this sexualization, we're not driving in the left, we're driving not in the, we're driving in the woods, knocking down trees and running over animals. The sexualization of our children just cannot be allowed. And I have to be firm on that because it is so outrageous. And I don't understand how this supposed 13 person, I wonder, I don't understand how this supposed 13 person committee suggests that these, not only are these books valid, but endorses them. You may remember we talked about how the one author had all his awards removed because of his sexual aggressiveness. I also want to close emphasizing my firmness in this, but also hand in hand how much I long for your interaction and feedback. So I didn't say anything when my name was called out a couple times, and I'm glad I didn't. And if you wish to talk and wish to ask questions about that, I'll do that. I would really like to, in the seconds that I have, I'd really like to know where this $60 million hole, did I misspeak? Hole went. If that hole is now buried and filled in even ground, that's a great accomplishment. First time I heard about that was at the last board meeting, in the minutes that you all approved. So that would be, I think, noteworthy for the entire community. So thank you, and I look forward to an opportunity when we can really work together, collaborate.
Thank you. I think to comment, and we can get a little bit more information. So there was never a $60 million deficit. Schools do carry debt. We do carry debt for different projects that we put out there. I don't want to be quoted right now. I cannot recall right now what that amount is. We can definitely check that, but every school system carries debt. That's how we are able to do the projects that we do. So I think, again, it's the point that was raised, I think, after the meeting. It's terminology that I think we want to make sure is on an equal playing field, because there is not a single district in the state that does not carry some debt. Because that is what allows us to be able to have facilities that we have and to be able to make improvements in the future. We wish we had a huge slush fund of money. I think every district does, but that's not how education in Indiana is set up. So I think it's understanding what that terminology is. And as the deficit rolls off, as we do different projects, I mean, a lot of deficit is going to roll off here, or debt, I'm sorry. I'm even using the wrong word here as I'm talking about it. But debt rolls off. We made a lot of improvements to our elementaries 18 and a half years ago. That debt is nearly paid off. So I mean, there's different things with that.
School financing is complicated, so I'm not surprised there's some confusion. But Dr. Evans and I would be glad to meet with the administrator to explain the deficit and debt, and what those differences are and where we are.
I'd like to add to that
774-361-1573.
I'd like to add to that clarification also. As long as the budget has enough money in it to pay the debt service, there is not a deficit. Okay. No deficit.
Correct.
May I be afforded one clarification question, please? Did we not have 1 or 2 meetings where we got up in front of the community and said, we're in trouble? And at a third meeting, didn't the school board president say, folks, we got to do something because the money's going to run out in 2025? So that $60 million figure was not something that I invented.
So we did, so I'll respond. So there were definitely public meetings with that. It was for looking to prepare for the potential for the operating referendum to expire, which it is scheduled to expire. So trying to be forward thinking, so we did not fall off of the cliff. We needed to start making adjustments now. And those were things that the school system has gone through. We actually have a statement that is going to be released tomorrow with all of our final findings with that. But because we are being proactive, we are not going to fall off the cliff. And there's been a lot of adjustments that have occurred over the last semester to prepare for that.
Thanks.
All right.
My 3 minutes up?
Yep.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. We'll move on to item 4, which is superintendent's reports, and we'll start with 4.1, an update on the budget calendar. Dr. Evans.
So before you is a budget calendar. We're in the budget season, and I just wanted to give you a heads up that in August, the first part, we'll need to have a budget workshop, and then there'll be a series of 4 meetings to present the budget, to review and ask permission to advertise. We'll have a public hearing on the budget, and then in October, we'll adopt the budget. So I wanted to give you a timeline on the budget process.
And it feels like we're starting a little earlier this year. It feels like it's usually September when we're kicking that off. So is that
I'd like to be a little earlier this year.
Yeah. Yes, any questions about that? Calendar look good? All right. So let's kick it off in August. That's fantastic. All right. Thank you, Dr. Evans. 4.2, we're going to get a graduation report. Mr. Meyer.
Hello. I am happy to report graduation went well. It was well attended. We had about 2,000 guests based on the tickets that we had prepared and given away. We had 426 graduates. Out of that, 113 earned our highest diploma, the academic honors diploma. Rivaling that would be the technical honors, another 17 earned that. And then 7 of our candidates are Ivy diploma candidates, and we'll find out this summer if they've earned that diploma or not. So I do want to ask if you have any feedback. I'd love to hear it, or if you want to compile that and give us ideas for next year. This was the first year I've organized graduation, so I'd be happy to work on that.
We'll keep the weather as nice as it was. You can promise that.
That would be great.
It was nice that we were not the heat of the day.
I think it personally went very smooth. And I mean, it was amazing. It was 75 minutes from the time I think we walked out of the building to when we were back in the building, which is amazing. So well organized.
I was impressed with the number of, I don't remember the term, cum laude and student cum laude, all those categories, the number of students in those categories. I was impressed with that.
I agree. Very proud of our students, especially in these last couple of years and what they've been able to do. I won't have a graduation rate for us until about January, but very pleased with this many graduates.
And you can get back, what was the percent that received those higher GPA? I mean, that list was so large. I mean, it had to be 30%.
I did not calculate a percent. I guess I should have done that.
I mean, it's pretty impressive, the quantity of students that do achieve high honors.
Right. And when we have the academic awards banquet, we don't include all the grades anymore because we can't find a location for all 4 grades. We don't have enough room. So we split it out and have freshmen and sophomores in the building during the day and live stream that for parents. And then we have an evening for juniors and seniors, which next year we'll have dinner again, as long as COVID cooperates.
I have lots of good comments from
Good.
public. It was hard to find the flag. Those were comments that I didn't have.
I agree. No, we've decided if we are at half staff again, we'll announce that to everyone. It was behind the scoreboard.
Behind the scoreboard.
Yeah, we're all searching.
Me too.
Where's the bread?
I know.
Another comment I got multiple times was they appreciated, recognized the students that have children for going to the military.
Yeah.
That was a big deal. I know that's the first time we've done that, but people really appreciated that.
Good, thank you. Thanks for letting me know that.
I think it was one of the best graduation ceremonies that I've been part of. So it was very.
Thank you. Well, if you think of anything that you want to see differently for next year, definitely send it my way. All right.
Job well done. All right, so we'll move on to item 4.3, which is a presentation on the Goshen Community Schools Alumni Plaza.
So we have some illustrious Goshenites here with us this evening to reintroduce an old project, which we're going to make new again. I think this is a great community project that we can all dive into. So to start us off is Mr. Reed.
Good evening. Thank you, Bill Reith, for St. Clair Road, Goshen, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about something that we're very excited about. I serve as a volunteer with the Goshen Community School Foundation. Dr. Bruce Staley is one of our volunteers, like myself, on that board. And we want to talk a little bit about the foundation and about Alumni Plaza. As I think about education, it reminds me of the teacher who wrote her lessons in Windows. You know why? Because she wanted to be very clear. So in our very few minutes with you tonight, we'd like to clearly explain a little bit about the foundation in case you're not aware of it, and really talk about Alumni Plaza. So the Goshen Community Schools Foundation, we exist to help teachers and students by providing supplemental resources to help our kids. We know that with budgetary restraints and all of those things, there are not all the financial resources for some of the programming, some of the supplies, some of the things that teachers and students want to do. So we raise funds from the public, and then we in turn, through a granting process, give those funds right back 100%, we're all volunteer led, right back to the school system. We started in 2008 and with alumni, so Alumni Plaza seems really appropriate. We became officially a 501c3 in 2011, and we have 16 people currently on our board. To date, we've raised over 100 and I think about 60,000 and 75 plus programs and grants that we've given out to Goshen educators and students. So we're pretty excited. And we calculated that we've impacted over 12,500 students in our time. So, you know, we feel good with just a bunch of volunteers. We've been able to do some good things. And we deeply appreciate the investment we've had from the school corp, from you as a school board, and from our larger community as they believe in Goshen schools and Goshen students, and look forward to a brighter future as we invest in our kids. Well, one of the projects that's been a dream of ours for some time is to help inspire and support students and teachers and parents and our alumni is something to actually help celebrate the 100th anniversary of Goshen High School. Goshen High School, help me, Dr. Hope, I think it's in 2023, it will turn 100 years. And so we have been working on this idea of an alumni plaza for a while, but think what a great year to try to do it as we celebrate 100 years of helping students. The purpose of the plaza, and we're going to show you some pictures in a minute, is we're talking about the space out here next to the high school building, next to the football and soccer stadiums. And we want to improve the aesthetics of that place. And the purpose of that is to provide a welcoming spot and a community gathering place for students, parents, alumni, and guests. We want it to be a safe and welcoming place for people to congregate and celebrate what it means to be a Red Hawk, and a beautiful place that helps students and parents and alumni increase their pride in Goshen Community Schools and Goshen High School. And it's also a place where we can honor alumni and students as we look to build on its past achievements as we build for the next century of success. So Dr. Stanley is going to share with you, we have some conceptual drawings on what this might look like. If you go back to the timeline there, there was we had a little time. Not the gift levels, the timeline. There you go. So what he's going to share with you some conceptual drawings. Our timeline is we're hoping that you will approve this project. We have a number of volunteers, community leaders that are going to lead us in a campaign. We're not asking for money. We're seeking to raise all these funds from the community. It's about a 1.6 million roughly project, and we're trying to get that from private donations. We're hoping that they have some groundbreaking next year in 2023 and get it done before school. And so we're in a very aggressive time frame. So to talk a little bit about what this might look like, these are early conceptual. I'll turn it over to Dr. Steele.
Thank you, Bill. That's great to be back here and great to see the students recognized this evening. That was a pleasure. You can see here, this is of course just immediately to the south of the band area, where we would have a gate here and the ticket booths on the right and the left. And of course, this is called Alumni Plaza because we want it to be a gathering place for alumni and students and community. Let's go on to the next slide then. The next slide, you can see how this is laid out in terms of fences, trees, and we didn't just add the food trucks there just to make it known that, of course, to really make it a community place, we want to be able to serve food and so on, and really make it a gathering place for our community. This is just another view of that. As you get closer to the football field, there will actually be also a little bit of a gate there as far as welcoming fans to the area. And this is then into the football field that you can see. This is looking the other way, of course. We are still going to have parking down further to the east, where we'd still have parking. And of course, you saw in the original that large arch that's large enough where obviously they still have to have access to that area. So it's large enough so that you can still have access to that area and so on. We will have parking, as I said, down here in this area, furthest to the east. This is, as Bill indicated, a draft only, because as we look to the community and we're having a community group in order to raise these funds, it may change somewhat depending on if there's a large donor that wants a little bit of a change to it. You can probably guess that we'll entertain that very seriously. So I don't know whether there's any questions. I would say that there were some earlier architectural drawings that our committee was not totally pleased with, and they have revised those. We really want this to be sort of a great symbol of Goshen Community Schools. And so it is aggressive. We realize that, but we also realize what a great community we live.
And what you don't see, we have a lot of thoughts about putting up awards and recognition for both the sports and music and arts departments alongside some of those buildings there, so that we can really recognize and celebrate, past achievements as a school system. So what we're asking for you tonight is your approval to go ahead with this. We've got volunteers that are willing to go out and start raising funds for this, but we need the board to say, yeah, it's a good thing to do. We got approval back in 2015, but it's been a long time. But we are now ready to really move ahead in a very aggressive time frame.
I think the nice thing is you've tried to keep it so it fits in, so it blends into what our campus is. It's not something that's completely foreign to what Goshen is. So it's like it's meant to be there. So we appreciate the committee's thought of that.
Yeah, it will give a real campus, the goal is a campus feel, a place that alumni, students, guests will feel really proud of. And to tie in that area, you know, all of us have been back there, excuse my language, but you have that god awful pumps and all that stuff, and it's dark and it's dingy. It's just not, you know, any of you who've had kids in the system, it is just not a very welcome. And we really want to make it a showpiece, you know, that really highlight the great stuff that's happening here in Ocean Community Schools and at the high school.
There's something that requires a board vote.
It will.
It's
It's on our action item.
Yeah.
Any questions for us? And we'll come back to you with the final drawing and all of that, but we want to get some. On these really conceptual.
It's exciting. It's been a long time coming.
Yes.
I was on the foundation board back when it started, and it was many years ago that we started talking about this, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's perfect timing though. I mean, you know, well, and we get it done and we can open it in our 100th anniversary.
Yeah. That's great.
You know,
And we desperately need to upgrade some of our athletic facilities because surrounding school corporations are outdoing us.
Yes.
Thank you both very much. All right, we will move on now to committee reports, and we'll start with 5.1 Parks Department.
Rather unusual, but this month we actually had a park department board meeting the same day as the school board meeting. So we just finished a couple hours ago, this afternoon. The only thing I would report there is that plans are moving ahead and bids have been received for a new maintenance building, which is on the vacant lot along the railroad and catty cornered from the park office. And so now it goes to redevelopment commission and then to Board of Works. Board of Works is actually the one that would take a look at this bid. So that's moving ahead and that's exciting. Really needed a new maintenance building for the Parks Department. It'd be a great location.
Thank you. 5.2 Music Council.
Yes, I attended the meeting. It was short and quick. I emailed you the minutes, kind of late, so I apologize for that. I want to highlight two things. I'm a fan of our music department, as you all know, and it's good to know that it's making an impact on our students to the point that they want to become involved as a career. So we have 3 students who are going to receive scholarships from us, and 2 of them are going to study music education, and 1 of them is going to have a minor in music at Goshen College. So that's awesome. The other thing that I want to highlight is something that we all kind of know that it was going to happen. But you know, that's the thing that we struggle with 3 schools, the intermediate, junior high, and the high school having great music departments and having the staffing becoming an issue that they have to move in 3 buildings. I know that Dr. Hope has been working with them and hopefully they can resolve some of their concerns about not only enough time to teach music, especially in the intermediate school, but also being fair to our instructors who have to teach in 3 different buildings. So I'll bring that up because I promised them I would, but I know that we love our music department and we're looking to resolve some of these issues.
Thank you very much. 5.3 Athletic Council.
We met just before the end of school year. And I will email you the agenda in the minutes. Obviously, things were just winding up for sports. We kind of did a review of that. We were doing quite well with points for NLC standings. I think we're probably top 5 for sure. I think we're maybe top 3. We had some, I think baseball is still playing, golf is still going on. So we're proud of that we thought we could really be at the top there. And I think Mr. Pickard, one of his philosophies, we don't want to just participate, we want to compete. And so I don't know if that's a shift, but it's something we talked more about than we did in the past. We talked about budget items, football equipment, things like that, need to be upgraded or rebuilt. The one thing I'd like to highlight is, just some discussion about how we get more attendance, that participation from students. So trying to figure out ways to get students in for free, whether that's through sponsorships or donations and things like that. So that's something that's kind of at the top of the list too, as far as filling the stands and getting a good crowd.
Appreciate that. 5.4 is building trades. So the open house was in May. I think the thing to note right now, building trades, this was our 45th house that was built. So it's the 46th year of the program. There was 1 year in the late 70s, they did not build a house due to the economy, but this is the 45th house that's been built, which I think is a large milestone. The board did approve that they're going to buy 2 lots this year, since they have the funds to do so, so that they are well suited for at least the next 2 years, especially with a shortage of property within the township. So, but overall, continues to be a strong program. So something to be proud of.
Did anybody get a chance to see it?
That's great.
It was nice.
Beautiful house.
Saving stuff out, it's really nice.
5.5, foundation.
So obviously a big topic of conversation has been the signature project and Alumni Plaza, which I will just agree with a lot of you here. It would be such a massive boost to our facilities to have that there. Thinking about having graduation in future years outside, getting to utilize that space for parents and students to get to be in that space together. I think that'll be a great asset to the school. The other topics at our May meeting were the major savers final results. Looks like the foundation brought in just over $20,000 from that, which is great because that money then gets reinvested in our schools and our students. And then trivia night is moving along.
In October.
Yes.
Thank you. 5.6, legislation.
Well, I don't have a report on specific legislation, but I was appointed to be the District 2 representative to the state's legislative committee, School Board Association's legislative. We're spending a little time in Indianapolis, I guess.
Good.
You like that drive, then?
Oh, yeah, especially when you drive.
Appreciate that. And finally, 5.7, Goshen redevelopment. So as Roger mentioned, they'll be taking action tomorrow on the new maintenance building for the Parks Department. So that's on the agenda. Just continued discussions about different developments within the city. Obviously, last week, the new housing development here on the old Western Railroad property hit a roadblock. So it's now got to have some revisions if it has a chance to move forward. So, but there's still life in that project. So, but just different little projects still ongoing. But again, a lot of focus on the big development on the east side of Goshen. And then also the other apartment complex is getting ready to break ground near the intermediate school. So they've got those are all projects that have been approved through the redevelopment phase. All right, we will move on to item 6, which are consent agenda items. 6.1, approval of checks numbered 60409 through 60415, 3669 through 3926, 1054 through 1055, and EFTs numbered 956 through 1032 and 526 through 530. 6.2, obsolete textbooks. 6.3, NIET Summer Institute. 6.4, LED lighting projects. 6.5, gifts and donations. 6.6, Essex lease agreement. 6.7, licensed classified pay scale. And 6.8, personnel. Anything to highlight in the consent agenda?
A few people to highlight on the personnel agenda. First, Brian Bechtel, assistant principal at the high school, will be retiring after 23 years of service to Goshen schools. Libby Moracle, special ed teacher at the high school, mentor teacher, will be leaving us after 18 years of service. Scott Sauerbach, GHS custodian, will be leaving after 13 years of service. And lastly, We want to honor Deborah Kiefer. She was the head cook at Chamberlain for 25 years. She was going to be retiring. Sadly, Ms. Kiefer passed away on May 29th. After an extended illness, our thoughts and prayers are with her and her family, along the Chamberlain staff. That's sad.
So we bless her and we bless her family and we appreciate you. And with that, the consent agenda items are approved as presented. We'll now move on to item 7, which are action items. We'll start with 7.1 3-tier busing. Great.
Just looking for a vote this evening on the 3-tier busing. Any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer those at this time.
The times are what were presented to us the last meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have those in front of me if you would like me to read those off for you.
I don't need it. I just wanted to make sure there weren't any changes to it.
Do we have a motion and a second?
I move that we approve the 3-tier busing that was presented to us.
A second. The move to second discussion from the board.
I do want to say that, this is a difficult decision for a lot of people, but I have received positive feedback from both parents and teachers. So,
Thank you.
the feedback that I have received.
And I think once people realize that kids will actually be on buses less, I think that's the important thing to really highlight with all of this is ride times will go down. And I think that's the great thing about it all. And school's not really changing that much to start time. Other comments? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you. Item 7.2, student handbooks.
Student handbooks
Everyone wants.
have not, the only update since the last board meeting is we have included the corrected elementary TBR costs and dates. We still have hanging out there. We will now put in the start times for the schools. And then we have the lunch prices that we are still waiting to hear from the federal government on.
Those prices are usually set late this summer.
Right. We have a motion and a second for item 7.2.
I move that we approve the student handbooks.
Also,
Moved and seconded. Additional questions or comments on the handbooks?
I think I saw this on the agenda at the middle, at the junior high. Did Jill Lichting just resign?
She did.
Yeah, but that's, so any of those corrections will be made,
Yes.
obviously, in the hand, because that, her name's in the hand.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Good catch. You threw me off.
Yeah. I was pretty sure I saw it.
Any other? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you. And item 7.3, Goshen Community Schools Alumni Plaza. Dr. Hope.
So you heard the presentation tonight. You see what the project is. The committee members are confident that we can raise all of this money within the community so that this will not cost the school district anything. The school district will front some architectural fees, some of those upfront costs.
We have a motion and a second for items.
I'm very happy to move that we approve the Goshen Community School Alumni Plaza that was presented to us.
Second. Move to second. Additional comments or questions? Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is important. I mean, Goshen has been around a long time. It's time that we do start recognizing some of our alumni. This is that first way to really do it in a grand way. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And we have a few alumni sitting here right now. I mean, we're all proud to be part of Goshen. So,
And it'll really improve that area.
it's been moved and seconded. Item 7.3. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Thank you. We'll go on to item 8, discussion items, and 8.1 CMR fees.
Ms. Snowy had to step out, so I'll step in for him. We had these fees presented to you. They're the actual costs of the textbook for elementary, junior high, and high school. And any further discussion, I'll try to answer any questions you have.
Yes, the increase in any cost you see in any of the materials are the same as the increased costs you see everywhere. Publishers are charging more for their products now, so we try to keep these fees as low as possible as always.
And remind us again, I think I ask this every year, those that qualify for free or reduced lunch, is that some tied into the CMR
It
fees,
is.
or do they have to
So-
apply separate?
When you apply for the free reduced lunch, you're also applying. for
You're also-
for reduced textbook. These are free textbooks.
So families don't have to
Yes.
apply twice, yeah. And also a reminder that out of 50 states in the United States, we're one of how many that charge this separately?
You know, I don't know how many, but I would not
I
be
mean-
surprised if it was in the single digits.
I think it
believe
is.
two.
We're one of two. It's like, this bugs me every year that we have to charge parents for this stuff. And anyhow,
And just for everybody who's watching and everybody's here, that is an issue you take up with your state legislators.
Yep. Yep.
This board has no control over them.
no control at all. That's all controlled by the state.
I think the biggest question that I ever get asked from is, with moving to so much technology, people have less and less books in their bags. It seems like our fees keep going up year over year. I mean, how can we help explain that?
So at the elementary level, we still rely heavily on printed materials. We still have printed materials. The biggest cost of all of our CMR fees are reading and math at the elementary level. In the upper levels, especially at the high school, different courses require different materials. And in some cases for IB, ACT classes, those books, those materials are chosen for us. And so those fees are reflective of those choices the students make. Our online materials that we use via computer also cost us because we have to have access to those, and students have access to those. 24/7 publishers don't give that information away free.
And I think that's important to highlight. That's why I asked it, because people feel that we've gone to such an electronic world that these things should be going away, and that's not the case.
We wish that it was all free.
Other questions or comments? So this will be on our July agenda for approval. So if there's, I guess, other questions, or if you hear any feedback from the community, let's share that for that meeting and make sure we get our questions asked with that. And with that, we will go to item 9, which is closing items. Anything miscellaneous from the board? So the only thing that I'll note, now that the school year is over, it is time to do Dr. Phipps' yearly evaluation. So I will be sending out to the board members over the course of the next week the rubric to fill that out. We'll ask that each of you fill that out. And then we will meet as a board to review it, and then to review that with Dr. Hope, more likely after our July board meeting. So just be aware of that. Anyone that hasn't been a part of it, feel free to ask questions. It's a pretty straightforward process, but it's something that is required by law by the state to do every year. So that will be coming out, I promise, by Friday. I have to get it all organized. But you'll see that, and then we'll meet on that. Anything else from the board? Administrative items, Dr. Hope.
Our next board meeting will be right here on July 11th. So we wish everybody a safe and happy 4th of July. Have a safe summer and stay cool these next few days.
And do we have a motion for adjournment?
So
Second.
Move the second, all in favor, please say aye. We are adjourned. We will recess for 5 minutes, and we have an executive session this evening.
Is your company building a Burger King?